I've been sitting here for hours trying to figure out how to write this. I, 35M, was married to Susan, 32F, for 8 years. We met in college during our final year. I was studying to become a teacher, and she was studying massage therapy. We dated for 2 years before getting married. Susan always dreamed of having her own massage clinic, and I supported her all the way. For the first 5 years of our marriage, Susan worked at different spas and clinics, building her reputation and client base. She was good at what she did, and her clients loved her. 3 years ago, I helped her set up her own clinic. I took out a loan against my name to help with the initial costs. My grandfather had left me some inheritance money, which I was saving for our future kids' education, but I didn't touch it because Susan insisted we could manage without it. The clinic did well. Susan had brought many of her regular clients with her, and she was getting new ones through referrals. She worked hard, often staying late to handle paperwork and maintain her equipment. I was proud of her success and how she had built everything from scratch. Then Andrew, 38M, came into the picture. He started coming to her clinic about 8 months ago, claiming he had chronic back pain from sitting at his desk all day. He was some high-level executive at a big corporation. At first, Susan would just mention him casually, how he was a nice client, very professional, and appreciated her work. But gradually, she started talking about him more and more. She would tell me about his business trips, his corporate success stories, the expensive car he drove. I noticed she started booking his appointments as the last ones of the day. When I asked about it, she said it was because his schedule was tight and that's the only time he could come. About 6 months ago, things started changing. Susan began working later than usual. She bought new clothes, changed her hairstyle, started wearing more makeup. When I asked, she said she needed to look more professional for her clients. She also started getting texts late at night, which she said were from clients booking appointments. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. She stopped asking about my day at school. She used to love hearing stories about my students and their funny incidents. She would always say teaching was a noble profession. But suddenly, she started making comments about how teachers were underpaid and undervalued. Then came the day that turned my world upside down. Susan came home one evening, sat me down, and said she wanted a divorce. Just like that. When I asked why, she told me she had fallen in love with Andrew. She said he made her feel alive, understood her ambitions, and could give her the life she always wanted. What hurt the most was how she compared me to him. She said Andrew earned more in a month than I did in a year. He had a penthouse in the city, drove a Mercedes, and could take her to expensive restaurants. She said being with him made her realize how she had settled for less with me. I asked her if our 8 years of marriage meant nothing. She replied that she was grateful for my support but she couldn't keep pretending to be happy with a simple life anymore. She said Andrew took her on surprise weekend trips, bought her designer bags, and showed her what real success looked like. After she moved out, I found out from her sister Amy, 29F, that Susan had been seeing Andrew for 3 months before asking for the divorce. They would meet after her clinic closed, and all those late nights of paperwork were actually dates with him. Amy was against what Susan was doing but felt caught in the middle. My parents were devastated. They had always loved Susan like a daughter. Mom, 58F, would have her over for lunch every week, taught her our family recipes, and even gave her grandmother's jewelry. Dad, 60M, helped renovate her clinic space when she first opened it. They couldn't understand how she could do this to our family. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Susan wanted half of everything, including my inheritance from grandfather. Her lawyer argued that she had contributed to my career growth by supporting me as a teacher. Thankfully, the judge didn't buy it since the inheritance was specifically left for my future kids' education. The divorce was finalized last month. Susan got her clinic and her car, I kept the house and my inheritance. We didn't have kids, which was probably for the best. Throughout the proceedings, Susan kept talking about her wonderful new life with Andrew, how he was her soulmate, and how she finally felt truly happy. I threw myself into my work after the divorce. Started going to the gym, reconnected with old friends. My friend Mark introduced me to Rachel, 33F, at his barbecue last month. She's a kindergarten teacher at another school. We clicked immediately, sharing stories about our students and laughing at similar classroom experiences. She's so different from Susan, genuine, caring, and actually proud of being a teacher. Yesterday, I got a call from Anna, 31F, Susan's best friend. She sounded serious and said she needed to talk to me about Susan. I've known Anna since college, and she's usually pretty straightforward. For her to be this cryptic means something big must have happened. We're meeting tomorrow for coffee. I thought I had finally moved past this whole mess, but this call from Anna has me worried. I'll update once I know what this is about. Update 1: The meeting with Anna yesterday turned my world upside down again, but in a different way this time. I met her at the coffee shop near my school. She was already there when I arrived, fidgeting with her coffee cup, which was unusual for her normally confident demeanor. Anna started by apologizing for getting involved, saying she wouldn't normally do this, but she felt I deserved to know what happened. Then she told me everything that went down last week. Apparently, Susan had been planning a surprise lunch visit to Andrew's office. She had even bought an expensive tie for him from some designer brand. When she arrived at his office building downtown, she told the reception she was Andrew's girlfriend and wanted to surprise him for lunch. The receptionist looked confused and said Andrew was already out for lunch with his wife. Susan thought she had heard wrong. She argued with the receptionist, saying there must be some mistake because Andrew was divorced. The receptionist, looking uncomfortable, showed Susan a family photo on the lobby wall. There was Andrew with his wife and kids at some company picnic. Susan refused to believe it and decided to wait in the lobby. About 20 minutes later, Andrew walked in with a well-dressed woman and 2 kids, 8M and 6F. They were all laughing about something, looking like the perfect family. According to Anna, Susan just stood there frozen, watching them. The woman was holding Andrew's arm, and the kids were calling him daddy. That's when Susan lost it. She walked right up to them in the lobby and confronted Andrew. Anna said Andrew's reaction was the worst part. He was completely calm, like he had been caught in a minor inconvenience rather than a life-shattering lie. He simply told Susan that she was nothing more than a fling, and he had never planned to leave his family. His wife, who Anna said is some hotshot lawyer named Sarah, was shocked at first but quickly put the pieces together. She asked Susan how long this had been going on. When Susan said 6 months and mentioned the penthouse, Sarah exploded. Turned out the penthouse was a company apartment meant for visiting clients, and Andrew had been charging all his dates and gifts to the company card. The truth came tumbling out right there in the lobby. Andrew had been married for 12 years. All those business trips he told Susan about? Most were fake. He would tell his wife he was at work and tell Susan he was traveling. The late-night appointments at Susan's clinic were his primary excuse to his wife. The expensive gifts he bought Susan? All charged to his company as business expenses. The fancy restaurants? All private places where he wouldn't be recognized. He had orchestrated everything perfectly to keep his double life hidden. Anna told me Susan hasn't left her apartment since that day, except to go to work. She's been a complete mess, finally realizing how Andrew had played her. But here's the real reason Anna wanted to meet me: Susan wants to come back. She's been telling Anna how she made the biggest mistake of her life leaving me, how she now sees what true love and respect look like. I couldn't help it, I laughed. Right there in the coffee shop, I just started laughing. Anna looked shocked, but I couldn't stop. The irony was too much. Susan left me because Andrew was everything I wasn't, and now it turns out Andrew isn't even who he pretended to be. I showed Anna the screenshots I had saved from our divorce proceedings, where Susan wrote about how Andrew was her soulmate and how she had never been happier. I asked Anna if Susan was manipulated when she wrote those things too, or when she tried to take my grandfather's inheritance meant for my future kids. Then Anna told me about the aftermath. Sarah, Andrew's wife, is going after both Andrew and his company. She's filed for divorce and is building a case about his misuse of company resources. The company fired Andrew to avoid scandal, but Sarah is still pursuing legal action. The situation is affecting Susan's clinic too. Word got around about her affair with a married client, and people in our small community aren't very forgiving. Many of her regular clients have stopped coming. Some were friends with Sarah through their kids' school and sided with her. Others just didn't want to be associated with the scandal. I told Anna to tell Susan not to contact me. I'm done. I'm happy with Rachel, who actually respects me and shares my values. She loves being a teacher and understands the satisfaction of making a difference in kids' lives. Just last weekend, we went hiking, and she had packed lunch for us, something Susan always thought was too simple and beneath her. As I was leaving, Anna tried one last time, saying people deserve second chances. I told her that second chances are for mistakes, not for deliberate choices. Susan didn't just cheat, she chose to belittle me, tried to take my inheritance, and threw away 8 years of marriage for a fantasy. I'll update if anything significant happens, but honestly, I hope this is the end of it. Rachel and I are planning a weekend trip to the beach next month, and I'd rather focus on building my new life than dwelling on the ruins of my old one. Update 2: Things have escalated quite a bit since my last update. Despite my clear message through Anna, Susan has been relentless in trying to contact me. It started with her showing up at my school during lunch breaks. The first time, I was in the teacher's lounge when another teacher told me someone was asking for me at the front office. I went there to find Susan waiting. She looked different, no designer clothes or fancy jewelry anymore, just regular work clothes. When she saw me, she started crying and trying to talk about how sorry she was. I walked away without saying anything. But she kept coming back almost every day for a week, until I had to talk to my principal about it. My principal was very understanding. Turns out his wife had left him for someone else years ago, so he got where I was coming from. He instructed the front office not to let Susan in and told me to document every time she tried to contact me, just in case things got worse. After she couldn't reach me at school, she started sending emails. Long, emotional ones about how Andrew had destroyed both our lives, how she had been blind, how she missed our simple but happy life. I blocked her email. She made new accounts. I blocked those too. Then she started sending handwritten letters to my house. I returned them all unopened. Last week, she crossed a line I never thought she would. She showed up at my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon, right when she knew they'd be home after church. Mom called me right away, sounding upset and confused. Susan had been crying on their doorstep, telling them I was being cruel by not giving her another chance. By the time I got there, Mom had let her in, and they were sitting in the living room. Susan was telling them how depressed she was, how she couldn't sleep at night thinking about how she'd ruined everything, how Andrew had manipulated her. Mom, being the kind person she is, was actually feeling sorry for her. That's when I lost it. I told my parents everything I had been protecting them from. How during our marriage, she had started making snide comments about my career choice. How she had compared my salary to Andrew's, my car to his Mercedes, our house to his penthouse. How she had written in legal documents that Andrew was her soulmate and our marriage had been settling for less. Then I revealed something I hadn't told anyone before. During the divorce, Susan had tried to claim part of my grandfather's inheritance. She knew that money was sacred to me. My grandfather had worked his whole life as a janitor, saving every penny so his grandkids could give their children the education he never had. Susan tried to argue she deserved it for supporting my teaching career, the same career she later belittled. The look on my parents' faces changed immediately. Mom stopped patting Susan's hand. Dad, who had been quiet until then, stood up and told Susan to leave. As she was walking out, she turned and said she would do anything to make things right. I told her the only right thing she could do was stay out of my life. Rachel has been amazing through all this. She suggested we take a trip to get away from all the drama. We're planning to visit my cousin in California next month. He lives near the beach, and it'll be good to have some peace and quiet. I've also heard through mutual friends that Susan's clinic is about to close down. Most of her clients have left, some because of the scandal with Andrew, others because they don't trust her professional boundaries anymore. She can't afford the rent without her regular clients. The loan I had taken out to help her start the clinic is still in my name, but thankfully it's almost paid off. I don't feel any joy in seeing her business fail. But I don't feel sorry for her either. Every time I start to feel a hint of sympathy, I remember how she tried to take my grandfather's money, how she mocked my profession, how she threw away our marriage for a lie. Rachel says I'm handling this better than most people would. Maybe it's because I've had time to process everything, or maybe it's because having her in my life shows me what a healthy relationship should look like. Either way, I just want this chapter of my life to be over. I'll update again if anything significant happens. Update 3. I decided to write one final update to give closure to everyone who has followed my story. These past few months have been quite eventful, and I want to share how everything turned out. Susan's clinic officially closed down last month. Amy told Mom that Susan couldn't keep up with the rent after losing most of her clients. She tried to sell the business, but no one was interested. The equipment was sold off to cover the remaining loan payments. She's now working as a regular massage therapist at a spa across town, making less than half of what she used to. Amy also mentioned that Susan had to move back in with their parents because she couldn't afford her apartment anymore. Apparently, she had been living beyond her means even after Andrew was gone, thinking she could somehow maintain the lifestyle he had shown her. She maxed out her credit cards and couldn't keep up with the payments. Speaking of Andrew, his life fell apart completely. His wife Sarah won their divorce case. She proved he had misused company resources to fund his affair with Susan and several other women before her. Yes, Susan wasn't the first. Sarah's investigation uncovered at least 3 other affairs in the past 2 years. Andrew lost his job, his reputation, and most of his assets. Sarah got full custody of their kids and their house. Andrew had to pay a significant settlement, including most of his savings and investments. He couldn't find work in our city. Word had spread in the corporate circle about his misconduct. Last I heard from a mutual friend, he moved to Arizona to start over. Rachel and I moved in together last month. It just felt right. She gets along wonderfully with my parents, Dad already treats her like a daughter, and Mom loves having her help with Sunday dinners. Rachel's family has welcomed me too. Her dad and I go fishing sometimes, and her mom keeps trying to feed me because she thinks I'm too skinny. 2 weeks ago, Susan's mom called me. She went on about how Susan was a changed person, how she had learned her lesson, how she cried herself to sleep every night. She asked me to at least talk to Susan, saying everyone deserves a chance at redemption. I was polite but firm. I told her that while I appreciated her concern, that chapter of my life was permanently closed. Some of our mutual friends think I'm being too harsh. They say Susan is truly sorry and that forgiveness would be good for both of us. But they don't understand. This isn't about forgiveness, it's about consequences. Susan didn't make a mistake in a moment of weakness. She made calculated decisions over months to cheat, leave, and then try to take what she could in the divorce. Rachel and I are talking about marriage. Not right away, but it's on the horizon. She understands me in a way Susan never did. She loves her job teaching kindergarten, and her face lights up when she talks about her students, just like mine does when I talk about my high school kids. To everyone who supported me through this journey, thank you. Your words of encouragement helped more than you know. And to those going through similar situations, remember that you deserve someone who respects you, values you, and loves you for who you are, not what you can provide. This will be my last update. Life has moved on, and it's time to close this chapter completely. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, And that's exactly what I plan to do.